Bonsoir tout le monde.
Good evening, everyone. This is our monthly meeting on strategies and public policies. We will receive some presentations. No decisions will be made tonight as to the presentations made, but there will be a question period.
Require translation devices. There are some on the back table, and you can go get one since I think is one presentation in English tonight. I'm not sure, but we can go from there. Donc ce soir.
So tonight, there's 3 presentations. We'll begin with the first one on the Canadian Francophonie Games 2017. The presentations will be made by Joël Martin. Joël, the floor is yours. I apologize, it'll take 1 second. Good. Thank you for receiving me tonight, the Standing Committee. I came to speak to you before the games. We obtained the game. We had a nice summer. We had success with our games. I'm coming to talk to you about it, what happened, and what's the follow-up. I had a post-mortem meeting with Pauline Luke and members of the recreational committee. They know what happened, but I want to share the success with you. As for the operation, the 2017 Canadian Francophone Games were organized by and for the youth with an average age of 21. I know I made a presentation before the games and I didn't make the calculation. I said 25, but I really made a calculation and the average age was 21 years of age. It was a criteria of the French Canadian youth that there would be games organized by and for the youth. We're happy that the City of Dieppe, City of Moncton University had faith in the youth. We were able to prove that with a small budget and a small team full of ambition, we're able to organize a huge event. We organized with a budget of $1.3 million, and there will be a positive results. The budget showed a surplus. Pauline was happy. We'll have a surplus that will be divided among 4 groups: FDSMB, a bursary from the university, and 2 groups that will be to be determined by the board of directors, but 2 youth groups from Moncton and Dieppe. That's a decision that the organizing committee will make together. Of course, we are working on the financial results. I don't have exact figures on the surplus, but there won't be a deficit. That's the important news. I believe that the community structure is a winning formula to have both cities on the board of directors with the key partners. It made it such that we were able to use people from the community, like myself. It created jobs. It gave experience to young people who will certainly benefit for the next event coming up. There will be more in the years to come. So as for the operation, that's our big success. Another big success is we had 660 volunteers present at the games. I'm sure that a lot of people from the Dieppe were there to make volunteer work in French. We were able to reach 1,165 young and participants who came for the events. Half the participants, no, we had 1,165 participants, 600 volunteers. We had almost 50% of the volunteers were among the participants. You know what I'm saying. We had a lot of volunteers. That's what I'm trying to say. Almost 1 volunteer per 2 persons. I want to take this opportunity to say thank you to the citizens from the 2 cities and people who came from outside to volunteer. It would not have been possible to manage such a huge event without volunteer. As for the program, the big success that come out for the youth is that all the participants were on one side. the site of the university was appreciated, but we had to displace one of the competition to Mathieu Martin School on a rainy day. Basketball 3 against 3 cannot be played outside in the rain, so we moved to Mathieu Martin. And the infrastructure were greatly appreciated for the 3-on-3 basketball. Also, the students were sleeping in the classrooms at night, and we had 2 social evenings in Dieppe. So within Mercredi Show, we organized a Francophonie show with the Mercredi Show, and I think it was a success. The young people were dynamic, were enthused, and it was much appreciated. We also had the closing ceremony that was held here in Dieppe at Place 1604. We received some good comments as to the scene, how we managed the space, reserve a space for the youth. It was appreciated by all. As for the communication, we had a media coverage beyond expectations. So we could not, we really had to answer a lot of requests from the media. It made people talk. We need to have discussions, and if we can be part of a social event and engage people to talk within events, there's not much comments, but in this case, we were able to shake things up with our slogan. I think we have to keep on having faith in our youth, and that kind of decision that can have an impact and bring a social reflection afterwards. So for us, it was our best marketing hit to have confidence in youth. It made the people talk and make people think. So I would like to conclude, and I'll let you ask me questions. I'd be happy to answer all your questions, but I want to thank the city of Dieppe for its cooperation in our projects. The games were a success all along the line. I can't tell you anything that went wrong. Food, lodging, competition, there was no delay, no rain, there was wind, there was sun, when it was too hot. Some clouds would come in. We had ideal condition for an event on that week from July the 11th to the 17th, 2017. As for the planning and the preparation, we would not have been able to organize it without the city of Dieppe. And once again, I want to put an emphasis on the fact we will have a surplus and we can make a leg after having received such an event, having given the taste to these young people to live in French. I thank you also for allowing me a working space. I don't know if you know, I shared some offices at the second with the recreational team. I want to thank you for that because I felt at home in Dieppe. Even if I didn't have a team at that time, I felt that I was part and parcel of the team. It's greatly appreciated. And just to tell you that if the next events are ready to be organized and if the partners are ready to get involved as they did in the Canadian Francophonie Games, it's promising for the next events to be organized. So I will take your question if you have any or comments. If some participated, you can share your experience. Mike. It's nice to know of the results that you had. One question I'd like to ask you. You mentioned there is a surplus. Some monies will be divided among different groups. Would it not be an idea if these funds could be invested for the future for the team New-Brunswick that may participate in other Canadian events? They always need money when they leave these teams. They don't have the finance available. It's a question. Suggestion is received, and I would tell you that the money it's been determined before we start. If there's a surplus, what do? There is an agreement as to what we do with the money, if there is any. And it was agreed that the money should be given back to the FGF&B and a fund to allow the young people of New Brunswick to participate in the next Canadian Games. As to the young Francophone of New Brunswick and to have more resources for other games. As for other associations and other groups who we will be giving the money, I will take a comment, give it to the board of directors, and they will make a final decision. Thank you. The other thing that I want to add, I had an opportunity to follow the activity, a few activities myself. There was a dynamic, we felt there was something in the air. And even when we had the meeting at McAdee Show, we saw all the young people. It was beautiful. I was talking with different persons who were with me. It's a parallel for us to see what will happen in 2021 when we receive the international game. It was a large group. We talk about 1,100 young people. With the coaches, it's more. But in 2021, we can multiply that 10 times full. Technically, it'll be 3 times more. Hey, that's going to be a lot of people, Mrs. Cormier. I see you shake your head. Thousands and thousands of volunteers. It's unbelievable the number of volunteers required for 2021. That was the objective when the city of Dieppe decided to receive the Canadian Francophonie game. The 2021 games, it was not even tangible, but I think that the fact that the board of directors who organized the Canadian Games saw the potential of the structure we put in place for 2017, and they said, we can do it. We are able to organize 2021. If we have the same openness, it'll be a success in 2021 also. Thank you. Councillor Thibodeau. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I would like to thank you for that report. As Councillor Brideau said, quite often, we have a presentation before the event and then we don't hear about it. I'm proud to see the success you had with those games. We were able to see it during the games to which we participated, and congratulations for the success that you had, and thank you very much. I knew we could give a project like that to the young people, it would be a success. Welcome for the International Francophone Game. Thank you. Councillor Cormier, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Did the 10 provinces and the 3 territories were represented? Yes, for the first time since 2005, everybody was there, including Nunavut. And the Northwestern Territory broke some records. They broke records for the number of medals. It was incredible to see the territory perform as well as they did. And I think it says a lot for the future of the Francophone Games, not only here, but a lot of people really did shine. Councillor Arsenault, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Congratulations again for your success. I'd be curious to know from your budget, did you make a good profit? Can we know how much money you made? The purpose was not to make money, it was to spend everything. We were really lucky. There was nothing unforeseen. We were lucky the weather was nice. We were lucky that some individuals gave us some rebate, discount, and they said, that's something I want to get involved in. I'll give you a discount. And that's how we made our surplus. We had money aside in contingency in case there would be a flood or an unforeseen circumstance, or in case a partner would drop out. I don't want to make a mistake. We're working hard with our auditors and our accountant to give you as soon as possible. My objective is to be able to give it to Pauline, who can give it to the council before the end of October. Your slogan, "Mes people right fier," is something that people talk about. You did a great job, and we congratulate you. No more question then? Melanie, congratulations for the work you did with your board and the volunteer, including those from the region. The city of Dieppe can be proud of what you did. It's promising for 2021. I hope you'll be around to help us, if not to be committed in the organization of that event. If you have further comments to make before the end, go ahead, it's the time. No, I'll finish with a thank you, and I'll say, for the next one, I'm not through coming to talk to you about events. It's really my passion, and I discovered that through the event like this one. Thank you. The flag, who won the flag? New-Brunswick won the flag of the game. The philosophy of the game is much less focus on the results. Competition is an excuse to exchange in French, but there is a competition, and New Brunswick won the more points in the disciplines. Manitoba won the prize friendship, that is voted by the peer. They decide which delegation was more flied out and cool. Manitoba won. Northwestern Territory won the improvement flag. There was a young runner in athletic. He beat records of the Canadian Francophone games. We have a racing track. It was nice to see the young people overdoing it. Once again, thank you very much. And good evening. Thank you. Next presentation. Music Club, Jim Mullen.
Good evening, and thank you, councillors, for allowing me to present an exciting project that we're proposing for the Dieppe area of Dieppe in partnership with the Dieppe Boys and Girls Club. The project is called Development Through Music, and it's a weekly program of music workshops that are interactive, hands-on workshops where children after school learn to read music, play piano, improvise, and compose, starting at a young age, but going through middle school and high school as well. This program is used in hundreds of schools across North America in the day program, but it's actually fairly few schools on average that use this. But it's very highly recommended. It's just not part of, typically day programs in schools do not contain this. So what's different about this program is that it develops a significant amount of skill and it keeps students engaged in the process. So I'm going to move through to the next slide. I forgot to move through my slides here. What we're trying to set up is something we already have working with success in many locations. We've been running after-school programs in the Halifax, Nova Scotia area in dozens of schools, after-school programs successfully since 2007. In 2017, we began this project, which would provide this similar program without the charge, without the expense. The reason we're doing that is because there's a significant impact for child and youth development if they develop a significant amount of skill reading music and playing music. It accelerates their rates of learning. It keeps them engaged in a highly developmental activity. And what we know about this program is we can keep youth and children engaged for years with this particular approach. So on this slide, I show you that the way this is done is using innovative technology. That's leading software and hardware that's used in a context of a group class. So every child and youth has the ability to sit down at a music station, and interactive software helps them learn to read and play. And there's group work that's kind of more traditional, singing, dancing, moving to music as well. All of that is included in teacher guidance, and the leaders of the class are trained to deliver this innovative program. The program provides significant skill development about what you would see in private piano lessons, weekly piano lessons. That level, that rate of skill development happens in a group context. So this is something that wasn't possible before. That's enabled by interactive software and this new approach. So the approach is called Music Club, a group class where we use interactive software to provide individual feedback to a number of students in a group class, and they get to also practice between classes. So that's the nature of the program that we offer. And what we've done in Halifax area in 2017 is several of their boys and girls clubs have started this program. The city council invested in lab capital equipment initially, and then Children's Music Foundation, which I'm representing here, pursued additional support, which basically keeps supporting that program every week, all year, paying for training, paying for music specialists who come in and deliver the higher level group classes. And what we see happening over time is students will progress through the first 3 levels, and they can do that with the existing staff at the Boys and Girls Club who have been trained and who continue to receive training. And this keeps the cost very low, but the children get excited about music and are very interested in building their skills, and they continue to be engaged in this program. So we achieved something very important that previously wasn't even being considered because there was no practical way to do it. So we've proven this. We've proven that it's very successful, and it provides a very strong foundation for future study in music, but it also provides, and studies show this, it provides an enhanced interest in learning in general. Because there's certain aspects of learning to read and play music that require concentration and self-discipline, and all the successes add up to confidence. So this is the kind of program that we're able to provide, and a few more details here are on some of the later pages here. So one thing we wanted to do is make this available to children and youth who otherwise would not be able to access these kind of benefits, very significant benefits. So we provide it through a Boys and Girls Club, and Boys and Girls Club have many families who would fall into that lower socioeconomic status. One advantage of the low cost is that we're able to sustain this program. Quite often, music and arts programs are expensive and have a very short lifespan. What we're proposing is a capital cost of $7,600, which would facilitate a program for over 100 students, children and youth at the Boys and Girls Club of Dieppe, ongoing year after year, every week, all year. That initial capital cost is for the computers that are needed to run the software, for the keyboards that connect to the computers, for the software that runs on the computers, for the initial training for the first year. So that's the initial proposal. One interesting aspect of this is that we can start the program even in the year before elementary school. So we can start it very early. And when you provide that kind of confidence building activity for young children and keep them engaged in it, there's a significant impact over time. And so we see in studies that have been peer reviewed over the last 20 years, we see that there's a significant impact on academic achievement, and we expect this to be a very consistent result. We have presented some of this in the materials that preceded the presentation, so that will be available after. But in summary, you can see some of the credentials of the program that we're using. It's endorsed by conservatories. It's won several awards. It was selected by the American Federation of Teachers to represent 21st century music programs, and received a Manning Innovation nomination. And it generally receives very high commendations from all levels, from children and youth themselves to very experienced, highly qualified music educators. The reason is it's very closely aligned with the comprehensive objectives for elementary music, so it's very carefully created. The capital costs that we are alluding to are for the equipment, as you see, and there will be 8 stations in total. There's a cart that contains the stations and remains locked when it's not in use by group classes. The group classes will allow 16 students at one time. And so children are in pairs at these music stations. Everything has been organized and run and tested. The program's been developed over 10 years, and it's very effective and efficient. So there's also the training for the leaders of the program mean that those first 3 levels of the program are basically no ongoing expense. That's already available at the Boys and Girls Clubs who are receiving these students. So the partnership with Boys and Girls Clubs is very fortunate in that there's no additional cost moving students here and there or bringing people in for most of these classes. The people we bring in are music specialists for the higher level classes, and we raise the funds for that from partners in Nova Scotia, Toronto Dominion Bank, the TELUS telecommunications company, Color advertising firm. So these corporate sponsors come in and help us pay for the annual operating costs so that we can keep this program going. So in 5 years, there will be a total of over $30,000 invested in this program if it's initiated by the city of Dieppe for $7,600. So that's what we're proposing, a program that the Children's Music Foundation will be steward of in the years to come and will report back. I think we've covered most of what's on this slide except for the foundation. So in Nova Scotia, one of the goals is for the children and youth involved, they feel like they're learning music with their friends. This is very good for a while, but we also have something for them to shoot for. So we have a connection, a formal connection that we've made where the music specialists coming in to teach the higher levels are also recruiting for band orchestra programs that these children can go into. So they can look forward to, hey, if I apply myself, I could end up in the youth orchestra for the province. And the youth orchestra needs additional players. And Dalhousie Music School needs additional music students. So we're basically, in Nova Scotia, it looks like we'll almost double the number of students that develop a significant instrumental music skill and foundation in music. It's a significant number of students because this is about 1/20th the traditional cost of private piano lessons. Because we can do it successfully in a group, we brought the cost down significantly. Because the Boys and Girls Clubs are already taking care of these children after school, and they have class leaders, that brought the cost down even further. So it's a near ideal partnership, and I expect it to be successful indefinitely. The level of support required by the community to sustain it is very modest, and I believe we'll have no issues finding sponsors that will want to participate in that. I'm wondering if there are any questions from council.
Thank you, Mr. Mullen. Are there any questions? Councillor Thibodeau?
Merci, Monsieur le Maire. Monsieur Mullen, votre programme, est-ce qu'il est disponible le 29 juin?
I'm sorry.
Est-ce que votre programme est disponible?
Is your
Available in English and French. The beginner program is animated, and it is not available in French yet. It is a goal of ours. We've had an offer from the French School Board in Nova Scotia. Once it's available, the animated software is available in French. They would like to use these materials in schools across the province. So we're looking at that. It's hundreds of thousands to do that. There are over 90 hours of interactive animated lessons. So it's a large investment. So that has not been done yet for the lower levels.
D'accord. Vous savez probablement.
You know probably that the municipality of Dieppe is a municipality that is francophone and which is proud to offer its services in both official languages. So we don't want to start offering services to our youth in just one language.
By the way, from Quebec City. I don't speak fluently, so instead of embarrassing myself, I don't speak in French. But I do understand the point, and we do remind you that these classes don't consist of a student sitting at a computer. The classes consist of a teacher leading the class and leading the group, and that teacher is French-speaking in Dieppe. And they've made it clear that they will be running the classes in French, and the software will be initially in English and then in French in the advanced classes.
Okay. Dans votre présentation,
In your presentation, you say that the programs are aligned with the provincial programs of the Department of Education of New Brunswick. As you probably know, in New Brunswick, we have a duality in education. So therefore, we have two different programs so that are not necessarily the same. So to align them with the curriculum, would it be the Anglophone or the Francophone curriculum?
I can't answer that. I wasn't prepared to answer that. I'm not sure. We investigated the English curriculum. However, in our experience, the alignment is with every comprehensive elementary music program in North America. So when we studied the Ontario curriculum, we achieved somewhere between 93% and 104% of the curriculum objectives with our existing teacher guidance. Keep in mind, there's someone leading the class. And if it's in a school, that class leader can take that material and align it properly exactly with the curriculum. So inside a public school, these materials are used very well, and they're completely aligned with the curriculum. So with respect to cultural expression of music, we have a large body of French music inside the software. Piano Suite Premiere was actually published by a French publisher in France, and they contributed approximately 100 pieces to the 900-piece library. They selected them, and we prepared that content for learning to play inside the software. We also have features that allow you to import additional curriculum, additional music literature repertoire into the software. So we are very accommodating. We have local folk music as well that can be imported, and we certainly expect that to happen more and more over time. And students are encouraged to create their own music as well, because the software has the facility to allow them to create their own, put their own lyrics in, and et cetera.
Okay. Une autre petite...
Another question. Have you approached the Boys and Girls Club in Dieppe with this program?
Several months ago, we showed the approach and the program to the director and the program director and the CEO of the Boys and Girls Club of Dieppe. We applied for a grant. The information that we have about the grant that we applied for was that they're looking for partners, additional partners. We went to a single source. So when that was not successful initially, we decided we should look for additional partners in this project. We received a letter from the Boys and Girls Club of Dieppe to ask for this program in Dieppe, and could we help them find support to deliver it. So that's why we approached council.
Merci.
Thank you. Councillor Cormier?
This is a foundation program. So the skill being developed is music reading skill, so it's primarily a literacy program. The piano was selected as the instrument to develop the basic skill because it's a linear instrument, uses all 10 fingers, and you're reading off the grand staff. So it contains, piano music contains the whole language. So it actually allows a very easy transition to any other instrument. So when we spoke to conservatories, we asked, what's the best foundation instrument? And very consistently, they point to the piano. The two other additional advantages of using the piano as the foundation instrument, one is you can start much earlier because this keyboard can be accessed and played with satisfactory result by a 3-year-old with tiny, weak fingers, right? So they can begin learning to read and play music at a very young age, which is not the same for many other instruments. So we can get them building confidence much earlier, and this is to a greater advantage. So that's one other reason for the piano. And a third reason for the piano is that this device connects to the USB port on a computer, very low cost. Other instruments, it would add $400 cost to connect to a computer just to read what's going on with the instrument. There's no additional cost here. This whole instrument with the connection of the computer is $100. So that's a significant advantage. It provides immediate feedback. There are some methods that use a microphone and it interprets it over microphone, but that introduces a 2.5-second delay, and it's not nearly as much of an impact on the learning process. This is why we chose piano. But it's, if you consider voice, for example, another instrument, the voice, singing, every serious voice teacher will ask their students to take piano lessons so that they learn how to read music. It's a very common thing.
Say, Alain.
Merci, Monsieur.
Councillor Alain, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
I sat on the TELUS Community Board before, so I see that if they are definitely supporting you, you must have a good program. So what I suggest to you is three things actually. Number one, if we can get support from the Dieppe Boys and Girls Club, because they should be here today. Part of the Boys Club should be here supporting you.
Yes.
Also, we have a great program called Sistema New-Brunswick.
Yes.
I don't know if you've ever heard.
I've spent an afternoon reviewing it, yes.
So the government of New Brunswick has heavily invested, I think, $5 million over 5 years.
Yes.
They're in Hillsborough, Moncton, St. John, Richbocto, Tobic First Nation, Edmundston, Miramichi, and Sipoktok. So Sistema has the relationship with the Department of Education and on both sides. So I think that would be something, I think for Music IQ, definitely a win. To work with somebody like Sistema who knows New Brunswick. And I think this would be a great add-on for the Boys and Girls Club here in Dieppe. So
Absolutely. I can see in the future a very consistent transition. El Sistema, if you had 3 points, so I only heard
yeah.
two.
So
Go
my
ahead.
third one was a question on budget. So the $30,000, so that's a giving already, right?
No, I don't
On
believe
the
I meant.
operational, so it would be just a one-time
No, that
cost for us?
that would be a 5-year, all of the annual operating costs. The one-time cost, what we're looking for from the city of Dieppe is one-time costs of $7,600. And that will allow the lower levels of the program to begin immediately. There's no other strings attached. The equipment would belong to the Boys and Girls Club, and we would provide the initial training. The rest of the $30,000 would be the ongoing training of the Boys and Girls staff. We would raise it, so we would look for additional sponsorship in the province of New Brunswick, and we would generally find it at that level. But it would tend to be in that $6,000–7,000 range per year, which is modest enough that we're very confident we can find this.
Thank you.
That was one answer. Yep. The El Sistema I would like to respond to because we did take the time to pursue that relationship. Let's say it's at preliminary stage now. They're nervous about us. In a way, and I understand what they do and why I'm very much supportive of what they do in El Sistema. The advantage here is that with, let's say this expands to other cities in New Brunswick, because you mentioned a provincial number, okay? So they service about 800 students right now, children and youth, and they have a connection with the youth orchestra. A comparable figure, that's about 1.6 million a year, something like that, 1.5 million a year. The same number of students will be serviced in Nova Scotia through our program. They will be consistently lower socioeconomic status, so families without the money to send their children to instrumental lessons. Those families, for 800 children, will be serviced. They will receive this program for under $100,000. So somewhere between 10 and 15 times less expensive than El Sistema. The only reason I mention that, El Sistema is different. They keep kids for much longer during the week. But the reason is these gifts, this development is really meant for all children and youth, not just for the 5 to 10% that receive it now. And so if we can help children that traditionally have difficulty receive these benefits, then it's actually a very good return on investment. And what we see with El Sistema is very limited. Because it's very expensive, it's also very limited. I like it very much, okay? They've got groups of kids, they're playing violins and oboes and every band, orchestra instrument you can think of, they have it, and they have great instructors. I've a lot of respect for the program. But it is limited because it's 15 hours a week, and music specialists are there for 15 hours a week in every location, and it's limited economically. And so what we have here is an innovation allows us to expand the footprint and reach double the number of students who can be, they can actually be drawn into the El Sistema program. As they have a foundation, they will be able to join El Sistema and become some of the better players in the El Sistema organization. So that's the way this will eventually integrate. But the cost is so low, it's not a situation where it's either them or this program. We really don't impact their funding significantly at all. And we did approach them to use our software as part of their foundation program, which would be a very effective tool for them. It would help them make faster progress with their students in certain areas. It was a very good fit, in our opinion, but that was a little too much for them. They're working on fundraising big dollars, and so they're a little bit nervous about a new approach. So what we'd like to do is just gain acceptance for this modest way of producing service for over 100 children every week, all year, for a very modest investment that is certain to be a good return.
You believe you'll have 100 children at the Dieppe Boys and Girls Club a year?
Yes, that's the numbers we received from the program director.
How many Boys and Girls Club is there across New Brunswick?
We've only been in contact with 6. 6 of them have written us and asked us for the program. And
Do
this
you know
is,
how many clubs is there, though? That's something I don't know. I'm just.
it might be 10. That would be the top end, I'm thinking. But there are other community centers that we work with as well. In Halifax, we work with a center called the Halifax Music Co-op, an organization that offers low-cost music lessons. And they were a good fit to work with us to bring this program in. We will work with anyone.
Perfect. Thank you.
Conseiller Arsenault?
Merci, Monsieur le Maire.
Councillor Arsenault, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
The questions that I had, and thank you very much. I think they were excellent. Thank you. Merci.
I guess that's it for questions, Jim. If you have any closing remarks you'd like to give before we move on.
Sure. We look forward to working with the city of Dieppe, and we will be following up and encouraging your participation in this project. And thank you very much for the opportunity to present it and to answer your questions.
Thank you for coming.
Now, we go to item 3, presentation, and it is concerning the bylaw enforcement division, and that is going to be presented by Stéphane Simard, our assistant city manager. And his assistant is, Nicole is here too. Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Mayor. So a couple of weeks ago, there was a specific request by Councillor Arsenault on a special presentation by the Bylaw Enforcement Division. So it's going to be a short presentation, but I'm very happy to give it to you. What I'm going to be presenting to you is the staff. I'll talk to you about the training, their duties, the 3 ladies, their tasks, and what they do here at the municipality. We're going to be talking about the type of claims or complaints. We're going to be talking about statistics. You'll see a couple of tables in my presentation. We're talking about open claims. You see that we're going to have a way of dealing with these claims. We'll talk about warnings. We have to know that the bylaw enforcement agents are not only there to give tickets, but they're there for education. And we'll talk about tickets. So the bylaw enforcement, there are 2 bylaw enforcement agents, Cécile Lavoie and Tracy Lausier. They work full-time. There's a coordinator, Madame Nicole Melanceau, there's a coordinator, who is discreetly seated behind me, and they are under my supervision. You have to know that the officers, there was a time when it used to be police officers who were hired by the municipality, but now these are agents who have followed the courses, police courses in NBCC. So it's one thing to have people who have been educated in that. They are not police officers. They've studied in Dieppe. We have to add that too. Also, these bylaw enforcement officers work with Capelé and Beaubassin Est. We have agreements with those regions for the last couple of years. So that made it possible to have one full-time staff, and it gives us the experience of those municipalities too. The equipment, we're talking about bulletproof vests for each agent. There are 2 vehicles, and these officers are not only trained, but they keep on being educated with the Atlantic Bylaw Officers Association, and they go to the AGM every year. There is training in communication, public safety, mental health, access to information, testimony, self-defense, how to prepare files, take specific photos. The type of claims that are going to be processed, there are different types. We have a computer program that's called RMS. That program sets files with personal information of the claimants. It talks about the place we can specify the claim. For example, if it's noise, dogs, so there's a whole list of different categories of different complaints, which means that we can make reports and have specific results for each category. Among the things that are processed, everything is related to bylaws that you, the council, have adopted. Nuisance, for example, a neighbor's light that is into a window, or dust from construction. Bylaws on streets, sidewalks. We're talking about lawns. The bylaw was amended recently. We're talking about maximum height of lawn. We're talking about play equipment in the street. We're talking about gravel. We're talking about hedges that block one's sight. We're talking about trees, or we're talking about signs on posts. For example, on electric posts that are against bylaws. Others, we're talking about traffic and parking. We're talking about prohibited parking in the streets, heavy vehicles, stray dogs, excrements, barking, biting. These are specific fields in which we have interventions. There is specific training for this type of intervention, for example, for dangerous dogs. The bylaw on trash, we're talking about the wrong bags being placed for the trash collection. You'll see the figures later on. Also for backyard fireplaces, the permits. So there is inspection that is done to see if the fireplaces are at a far away enough from buildings, etc., that type of thing. So now we come to the statistics. I mentioned earlier the claims or the complaints. Not everything is the subject of complaints, but for the amounts that were put in 2016, we have 757. Generally speaking, it covers pretty well everything except for traffic. There's basically no files in traffic in 2016. As you see, it's pretty well balanced. Trash is slightly higher than last year, but this is basically the number of claims that are in our system. I was curious to find out how many tickets were given in 2016. I wanted to know what kind of, when during the year tickets were being given. So we can see that the first 3 months, 188, April to 30th of June, 237, in summer, 251, and in fall, 335. These are warnings. I mentioned it earlier. If I come back to, as you can see, we see that in 2016 we gave 1,011 tickets. That's broken down in 278 warnings. So these are just warnings, and then 703 were bona fide tickets. Concerning the tickets, we have the fields here, and it generally concerns traffic, heavy vehicles also. And streets, we're talking about parking. Mainly downtown, that's for parking, but we also check parking everywhere in the municipality. So we see the breakdown, the warnings. 1644 is 34%. We warn people very often in that area, and then you see the rest in the pie chart. Tickets, these are the tickets that were given, and there's a fine to pay with those tickets. So we gave 734, and you see that mainly in traffic. And we can see also the tickets, basically, and they're all mainly around place 1604. The bylaw enforcement agents have other tasks, as we can see. They also deliver notices of water. People who do not pay their sewer and water bills, it is the bylaw enforcement officers who go warn these people that their water and sewer is going to be cut. Also, they bring monthly packages to the members of the PAC, Planning Advisory Council. They take pictures for assessing files and planning and engineering fire. And they also prepare documents for court, like I said earlier, and for which they received the training. So basically that was my short presentation. So these agents are competent, they've been trained, they do difficult work, important work of education too, and it's important that with their interventions, these agents contribute to a better safety and better environment for the population of Dieppe.
We'll be happy to answer your questions if you have any. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Mr. Simar, I wanted to be clear. The service section, 34% of service, what does that mean in essence? Page 18. I don't have the same page as you, is it? That one, yeah. Well, as you can see, the warning ticket, we talk about warning ticket here. Is it someone who is parked longer than his time has expired, his meter expired, or a dog that is not tied up, or a fight over a fence? There's all kinds of things. Sometimes it's minor. For instance, a complaint about noise. Someone put someone's wind charm in the window and it makes some noise. Those are some of the things for which we have to intervene, we have to answer. Thank you. Councillor Arsenault. I'm proud to have information. Thank you very much. Well, I ask questions on money. How much is a fine? If you give a fine, how much would it be? The fine for parking? Yeah, for parking, or if there's other fines, there's a series of, it's $30 for parking fine. Mike. Good evening. $30 for highway, sidewalk, lawn, electrical posts is $240, dogs, and the rest is a minimum of $140. Well, I'm proud to hear that. I'm proud to hear that. The other question. Do you do some towing? Are you the one that gives an order to tow a car if it's abandoned on the street? Yes, during the snow removal in the winter, while they can call Tow Group. It's an organization that works for a towing company. I don't know if you have it or not. Do you have any bar that we can put in the wheel to stop them from getting away? No. I'm surprised that young women wear a bulletproof vest. No, not always. In some circumstance, it's more often at night when they patrol at night during the winter season, or if we have a hot situation, a dangerous building, we had some dealings with that person beforehand. And if we have to return, it happened a few times, we had to go back. And for their safety, they felt insecure the first time. Do you have defense measures? A bat if a dog attacks you? No, we were shown we can use. We all have. I'm sorry. We self-defense. Yes, we were taught self-defense. We have information like that. We feel at ease because we're not members of the RCMP. It can happen that you were hurt by someone who was negligent. No, an officer was bitten by a dog. It happens. The lady said, "No, it's okay, it's okay." Thank you very much. I appreciate the presentation very much. If I may add, we have access to the RCMP when it's too dangerous. They cooperate with us. No more questions. Thank you. I would like to have an answer to this. You have 700 fines, traffic fines in 2016. How many went to court? Was there any court cases? Yes, we've had very few. But I'll invite Mrs. Melanson again. I would be curious to know how many went to court. I don't have the answer, but the majority will pay. They have 30 days to pay, but we don't go to court until 3 months later. So we may have 20 It's more winter season tickets or handicap parking. But normally the tickets are paid. If they make it to court, if they're found guilty, 99% are found guilty. The amount goes up to $70, and public safety take it over, and instead of $60, and they keep $10 for administrative fees. They have to pay, otherwise they lose their license. So when you renew your license or your plate, or you have to pay, otherwise they won't renew it. Are the majorities are fine in they're given downtown Saturday morning most of the time? It's more downtown, but I'll tell you honestly, it's handicap parking. That's the highest number of tickets given. In the handicap parking or 2 hours limit. Thank you. Thank you. No more question? Last comment, Stefan, if you have any? No? I hope that we've answered your question. Thank you. Thank you very much. The other two items that you have on your agenda, there's nothing new for the two items, so this was the last presentation. So I thank everyone, the citizens, for having participated during your supper hour, for listening to us. The next council meeting will be next week. Thank you and good evening.